at the lecture was this. So Kobe Bryant, who settled out of court on a sexual assault case, right? He won an Oscar last night because there was a short film that was made out of his retirement letter about dreams of basketball or whatnot. He won an Oscar last night, which means that Kobe Bryant has now won as many Oscars as Gary Oldman, which is really ridiculous. So Kobe Bryant gets up there, he wins an Oscar on Me Too night after settling out of court many years back with a woman who accused her of raping her in a room in Colorado. Here is Kobe Bryant dunking on Laura Ingraham and the crowd cheering.
Whatever form your dream may take, it's through passion and perseverance that the impossible is possible.
Well, I don't know if it's possible. I mean, as basketball players, we're really supposed to shut up and dribble, but I'm glad we do a little bit more than that.
Okay, there he is ripping Laura Ingraham because we were supposed to shut up and dribble. But it's so funny. The entire crowd is totally fine with Kobe Bryant, a guy who settled out of court on sexual assault charges, doing this routine. So just amazing. These are our moral betters. You can tell that what Hollywood wants to push. Again, the Oscars are not about Hollywood demonstrating its best. It's about them demonstrating what they think is best about themselves to you. That is what Hollywood is about. So there was a song that was performed last night from the movie Marshall called Stand Up for Something, and I guess it was Common and Andra Day who are performing this song, and I guess it's mostly like sort of a beat poetry about politics.
These days we dance between love and hate. Don't know the date, so we stay awake. A knee we take for our soul's sake. New victory off our old faith. A president that chose with hate. He don't control our fate because God is great. When they go low, we stay in the heights. I stand for peace, love, and women's rights.
Okay, they stand for peace, love, and women's rights. Don't you understand? When they go low, we go high, but we kneel for the anthem, and the president leads with hate. Yeah, no politicking here. But by the way, again, if I comment on politics, it's my fault. You watch. The headlines after this show will be, Shapiro rips into Oscars because he's bitter about that. I didn't even watch it, man. Okay? Like, do what you want to do. But I'm pointing out that the culture gap in this country, the cultural betters, they wonder in Hollywood why we don't take them seriously on politics. They wonder in Hollywood why there's so many people in the middle of the country who find Hollywood distasteful. They wonder in the middle of the country, they wonder in Hollywood why it is that people in the middle of the country are only going to see their big budget pictures and not any of their artsy films. Maybe it's because you're constantly lecturing everybody in the middle of the country about how you're better than they are. And then the minute that you say, listen, we don't like being lectured, they go, hey, we're just artists, man. We're just artists. You don't get to be propagandists and admit that you're propagandists and openly propagandize and then pretend that you're just there for the art of it. Okay, it doesn't work that way. That's not the way that it works. You can use messaging in your art, but that is messaging in your art. And you don't get to have it both ways. This clown nose on, clown nose off routine is really irritating. I think the greatest contrast here, by the way, is Common and Andra Day do this thing about we're going to kneel for the anthem. Gary Oldman wins an Oscar. He thanks America. And listen to how the crowd responds.
I owe this and so much more to so many. I've lived in America for the longest time, and I am deeply grateful to her for the loves and the friendships I have made and the many wonderful gifts it has given me. My home, my livelihood, my family, and now Oscar.
Okay, so he thanks America. He talks about how great America is. Dead silence in the hall. Dead silence in the hall. But big applause for Frances McDormand. Of course, Frances McDormand wins Best Actress for what I thought was actually an overwrought performance in Three Billboards. I liked Three Billboards. I thought the movie was fine. I thought the best thing in it was Woody Harrelson. He's the only one who didn't win an Oscar. Sam Rockwell, the guy who you'll remember from Iron Man 2, won an Oscar, and so did Frances McDormand, the woman you'll remember from Fargo. She won an Oscar, too. She got up at the end, and she did a whole women in movies routine, because, you know, if there's somebody who's really been victimized in the movie industry, it's Frances McDormand, who's now winning her second Oscar and who's been working continuously for legitimately 25 years. Here's Frances McDormand pushing inclusion riders. She said this at the end of her speech, and nobody knows what she's talking about, but I will explain.
Because we all have stories to tell and projects we need finance. Don't talk to us about it at the parties tonight. Invite us into your office in a couple days, or you can come to ours, whichever suits you best, and we'll tell you all about them. I have 2 words to leave with you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Inclusion rider.
Okay, nobody knows what she's talking about. An inclusion rider is a rider in contract that states that there must be parity with the number of women employees or black employees. We have to have an intersectional contract. Listen, she's happy if Frances McDormand wants to do that, that's fine. That's fine. But Hollywood ain't going to operate on inclusion riders because the reality is that Hollywood still needs to make a profit. The sad truth of Hollywood is that none of the movies that won last night make Hollywood work. Nobody watched the Oscars last night because of 3 billboards. People watched the Oscars because of Thor Ragnarok, because that's how people engage with Hollywood. People engage with Hollywood because of Black Panther and Thor Ragnarok and Wonder Woman. And the reason they're not engaging with more serious content is because nobody in Hollywood will make more serious content that is not replete with nasty messages about traditional values or Hollywood's superiority to the rest of mankind. The minute you make a serious Hollywood film that doesn't involve those things, that thing will do blockbuster at the box office. But they won't do any of that. They separate it into stuff that makes money and stuff that we have a message with. And so long as they do that, then all the stuff that they honor at the Oscars is the stuff nobody will watch. And the stuff that actually makes it work is going to be all the money float stuff through Marvel or DC. That's how all this is going to work. Okay, so I want to move on from the Oscars and talk a little bit about President Trump's tariffs plan. So the president has now come out and says that it's time for a change on tariff policy. Here is what he tweeted out. He tweeted out that, quote, "We are on the losing side of almost all trade deals. Our friends and enemies have taken advantage of the U.S. for many years. Our steel and aluminum industries are dead. Sorry, it's time for a change. Make America great again." Okay, so again, as I explained last week, tariffs are stupid. The steel and aluminum industries are not dead. And the stock market continues to drop because the president doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to these tariffs. So the stock market dropped immediately on opening about 100 points. It is now up about 185 points. It'll probably drop again. It's very up and down right now because of the volatility in the stock market. It's unclear what Trump is actually going to do on all of this. It is true that Trump has promised this for a long time. So Wilbur Ross, the Commerce Secretary, who is most famous for falling asleep and drooling during meetings, he came out over the weekend. He said no one should have been shocked by the tariff talk, which of course is true.
Almost a year ago, he commissioned the Commerce Department to do the studies on steel and aluminum. They've been through any number of interagency reviews before they were released to the public. So with a whole year of preparation, I don't know why anybody should have been so shocked.
Okay, so he's right that nobody should have been shocked about this. The only thing is that we were told that we shouldn't have to really pay attention to stuff that Trump was saying. We should just pay attention to what he was doing. If what he said during the campaign is what he does now, I'm going to be much less happy with his governance than I have been for the last several months. Speaking of which, the media are making a big deal out of President Trump. Over the weekend, he did an event, and he praised China's president for life. The president, basically, of China is the dictator of China, because voting ain't a thing over there, is now the president for life. He's basically appointed himself to an endless term. And CNN got hold of audio of Trump talking about this. There's one thing Trump says that's disturbing, and one thing the media is blowing wildly out of proportion.
Don't forget, China's great, and Xi is a great gentleman. He's now president for life. Maybe we'll have to give that a shot someday.
So we cut out some of the laughter there for time purposes, but the reality is that people are laughing all the way through. When Trump says that he wants to give being president for life a shot one day, he's obviously joking. He's obviously responding to the crowd. That's what the media latched onto. What they should have latched onto is the president talking about how wonderful a human being and how great Xi Jinping is, the president of China. He is a communist dictator who represses his own people and leaves millions of people in suffering. No, he's not a great guy. No, he's not done a lot of great things. And when the president praises the president of China that way, that is not a positive. The president should not be doing that. That's where people should really be directing their ire, not at the stupid line about president for life. And no, he said that he thought that it was great that the president of China had declared himself president for life. And that part he was serious. And that's absurd, of course. You shouldn't have American leaders praising dictators. That's just bad policy. Now, speaking of bad policy, so all of these kids from Parkland are still going around doing a lot of media appearances. A couple of these kids, Cameron Kasky, and I think this is David Hogg, these are two of the kids you've seen the most. They were on with Bill Maher over the weekend, and they said some of the most obnoxious things ever. If the goal here is to earn your way into America's hearts so that we pay attention to you on gun rights, this is not the way to do it.
Sincerely, I really do. To all of the generations before us, we sincerely accept your apology. And we appreciate that you are willing to let us rebuild the world that you f***ed up.
Good luck trying.
Okay, so that is the most obnoxious thing. So what has that generation done, by the way? Like kids who are 17? What have millennials done? Like my generation. I guess they formally labeled millennials people born between 81 and 96. Okay, what have we actually done for the world, like the millennials? The answer is not a whole hell of a lot. I mean, I think the baby boomers were pretty disastrous, but at least they gave us the civil rights movement and the women's rights movement. What exactly have millennials done for the world? Not much at all, right? the arrogance of somebody saying, we want the previous generation should apologize to us. Guess what? The world didn't start with you, okay? The previous generation, you live in the freest, most prosperous country in the history of the world, and previous generations have to apologize to you? If you were born 500 years ago, you've been born into abject poverty by any global modern standard. But, we're supposed to pretend that these kids have been done some sort of essential wrong, not just by an evil shooter, which...
We will make America great again.